So, I bought half a cow's worth of leather to start upholstering my truck with. But I don't have a garage, so I'm gonna need to start small with something I can work on here at the apartment. Something like my center console. Now, if you're a fellow Tacoma owner, you'll know that the process of getting this guy out is real easy. All right, so this center console piece is actually 3 pieces. First off, we have the inside of the lid, which I do have some temptation to do something with this space, maybe like a tiny cargo net, but I'll save that for another day. Next, we have the innards. If you're wondering what this mysterious white substance is, that is definitely super glue. I had to repair some hairline fractures there. It's nothing else. And then the third part is the actual cover. Now, at first I thought this was faux leather. It turns out that this is actually rubber. This is the part that we're going to be replacing. We can see that it comes off on tabs here. And this is kind of a pain, so I'm going to use my jump cut beam to get this thing off. All right, we got this separated into 2 pieces. You may notice a kind of chemically leftover new car smell. I wouldn't worry about it, it goes away after a bit. This is the piece that we're going to be covering in leather, obviously. I am not going to try to recreate the exact shape of the original cover, seeing as how it is molded rubber and not leather. In fact, I'm going to be cutting a piece of leather bigger than this, so on the bottom, I can have excess go into this area and basically serve as more surface area and attachment points for the leather to hold on to this part of the lid. So, let's get to cutting. All right, so it's a little hard to pick up on camera, but you might be able to notice I have about 3 inches out from each side, little marks outlining the rough shape of the lid. I'm gonna cut there so I have plenty of excess to work with because I can always cut off excess leather, can't really add it back in. Also, word of advice for people trying to do this at home, if the only space you have to work with is carpeted, make sure you have something underneath your leather. I have some extra cardboard just in case my knife cuts a little too deep. I'm not messing up my carpet. I bought this thing brand new and it already looks like something I spray painted in middle school. I think while I'm at this, I might just go ahead and give this thing a custom paint job. That's better. Oh. I guess it's so much better I didn't even need to cut anything. All right, final step in the process is a healthy application of neat's foot oil. This is going to not only make it more flexible for when I actually go to adhere it to the center console, but it also make it more durable against wear and tear. And there we go. Now, we're not gonna do the backside because we don't want the neat's foot oil to interfere with the adhesive that we're gonna be putting on. But we are going to give this a little less than 24 hours to finish drying and soaking in. And then tomorrow, we're actually going to apply it to the center console lid. All right, so it's the next morning. Our leather does feel a little bit more pliable now that we've put the neat's foot oil on it. And the plan is to essentially replicate that one gag from The Simpsons where Homer squishes all of his loose skin onto his back, only we're going to be doing that with the leather and the center console lid. So, once again, you get the X-Acto knife and get to cutting. I don't know what I expected, but this was the hardest part of the entire process so far. All right, let's get gluing. All right, I'm not sure exactly how much of this process I'll be able to catch on camera, but I'm gonna be doing this in 2 phases. First off, I'm gonna be spraying my extra heat-resistant adhesive spray onto the top side here, and then I'm gonna do a second coating on the underside after I've secured the leather in its proper place. Now this stuff says to, let's see, yeah, let dry in, what is it, 75 degrees? Not happening. This is Texas. We live right down the road from the sun. It looks like Spider-Man foam. All right, that doesn't look too bad from the top. Doesn't look awful from the back. This is gonna be hidden by the hinge. Sides are a little lumpy, but they're evenly lumpy. Not great, but workable. The front, I really don't like these bits, and if you can see here, I accidentally cut off a little too much so you can see the plastic of the locking mechanism in there. But it does all fit together. I even replaced the screws to hold this inner piece onto the rest of the lid. It is a workable proof of concept. Am I satisfied with it? No, but this is at least a decent Mark I version of this lid. There's a very real possibility that I will be taking this off again to either redo this piece of leather or replace it with another piece of leather that I've cut a little bit better. There's even a decent chance I just completely replace my center console. But for now, let's put this thing in my truck and see if it does what it's meant to do. Be a place for me to rest my elbow while I'm driving. All right, knock on wood, should be the easiest part of the process. And there we go. Well, I certainly feel like I learned something through this entire process, though, like I said, I'm not entirely satisfied with it. Next couple of days are going to be a stress test for this thing to see how well it holds up. but definitely look out for a center console lid Mark II coming soon.